probably do, if it's okay, I'll just kind of go back here, and that way I can not burn up in the sun. My dermatologist is already making enough money off of me. So normally I come in a suit. I reserve polo shirts for Kiwanis, but I figure it's going to be hot, so dress down. And also normally, as you guys know, I do a large in-depth PowerPoint. Normally I do the PowerPoints a week in advance. And the reality is whatever I put down on the PowerPoint last week is irrelevant this week. That's how quickly it's moving. So there's nothing like working. Yesterday, I can tell you, the governor spoke, and my phone started to ring off the hook. We have 150 agents, 35 employees, and the minute the governor got done speaking, they wondered if we're closed, we're open. I gotta love this time. It was essential and non-essential workers 2-3 months ago, and they changed the verbiage yesterday to critical and non-critical. I don't understand why we can't use the same verbiage, but then again, it took Newsom 52 minutes to say bars are closed. So I'm not getting political. So anyway, I'm going to talk about the market. Can everyone hear me okay? Yep. So I'm going to talk about the market before COVID, so we can kind of dream a little bit where we were. Everyone in the real estate market was kind of looking for the shoe to drop. And I think that's as a result of the hangover from the Great Recession from 2000 and late 7, let's call it 2008 to really 2015. Those of us who've been in the desert for a long time understand that we get hit in cycles, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. So we anticipate for there to be another bubble to burst and for us to be, what's a PC term, in trouble. So what's interesting is once we got into the COVID situation, I started to feel a little relieved, and I'll tell you why. Let's step back to January. January, I can tell you, as our company, we had the largest month that we've had in 10 years. January, typically in real estate, is a slower month, especially in the residential side. But this market has been steadily growing. This market has also grown up. And I've talked about before where we don't have a ton of speculation in this market that we've had in the 70s, the 80s, 90s, and even the 2000s. Appreciation on the home side of it was approximately 7% annually. That's in line, if you look back from post-World War II, the 50s all the way forward, our average appreciation in the United States has been 7%. So we're on track, we're not having huge gains, but we're also not declining. We also had not reached our peak of $323,000 median sales price that we achieved in 2006. In January, it was approximately $272,000. So we still, unlike the rest of California and most of the United States, we still had not, in a sense, fully recovered. But I think that's ambiguous because I don't think our $323,000 in 2006 was a real number. Talk a little bit different. You know, we had, in January, we had 2.5 months of inventory. That means if we didn't list another house, we could sell houses for another 2.5 months and be out of houses. In 2007, we had 27 months of inventory. A huge difference. We have a very healthy real estate market. Commercially, we had more capital, and this has been a problem for almost 2 years, more capital than properties available. And at any given time, I would say our firm is working with clients in 1031s with anywhere between $30 to $50 million that we are struggling. In fact, Bob Basin is not here today. He has a deadline of tomorrow at 5 p.m. to identify 3 properties, and it's extremely difficult even at this time. So, real estate market was extremely healthy, but we're always waiting for that shoe to drop. Okay, when is the bubble going to burst? But when you looked at the fundamentals of the market, the fundamentals were good. 2006, let me actually go back, 2004, 5, and 6, we are averaging 6,000 new homes in this valley each year. We're only building 900 homes a year. We're not keeping up with new births, let alone migration to the high desert, which I think I'll get to in a second. We're going to see more of that moving forward. During COVID times, good to be rural, not good to be in the metro. So we might see a little bit more increased population. So we're not building enough homes. Why? There's not speculators. Back in 2005 and 6, it was not uncommon to find someone who had, I got 5 homes in escrow. You gonna live in them? No. Once they're built, I'm gonna flip it out to someone who's gonna buy it from me. Well, the reality is most of the buyers on the market had 4 or 5 homes. It was an unsustainable market. We have a true market now. Additionally, banks aren't lending. As you probably all know, a lot of regional builders in this area that are building onesie, twosie are no longer building. The reality is because they're having to use private capital, their own capital. Years before, you could go down to DCB, say, you know, in 2004, 2003 actually, I just sold my company. And I decided we were going to deliver new homes in the valley. How many homes had I built before? 0. I went to DCB, nothing against DCB, this was every single bank. I went down and said, I want to build a house. They said, do you own the land? I said, I do. I own it free and clear. They said, fine, we'll give you 3 loans to build houses. Are you breathing? I said, yeah. Oh, good, we got a heartbeat. Boom, I had $1 million line from DCB. Those were the times. Granted, they did make sure I was breathing and had, you know, credit and a few other things, but that was 2004 and 5, and I was not alone. Unfortunately, people went out to 10, 15, 20 different loans. When the market stopped, they got stuck with those homes. 27 months equaled 5,600 homes on the market. A lot of them were speculative. So a very different market today than back then. So fast forward, before COVID started, we had an extremely healthy housing market. We are not meeting the demand because banks aren't lending to the developers. They're not lending to regionals, home builders, and the KBs, the Centex Homes, actually Centex Homes is now Pulte. Those companies are very shy to come into the high desert. Why? They got burned very heavily in 2004, 5, and 6. They still remember the headache of 15 years ago. That was a huge drunken party. They haven't sobered up yet, so they're still not building. KB Homes is building approximately 2 homes a week. So if you look at that, it's roughly 100 homes a year. Their target in 2006 was 750 homes. They're working through inventory that they had on the market back in 2005 and 6 and 7 of lots they didn't build. So they're just building out what they didn't build out in 2007. So 2020. The commercial market is very steady. We don't have enough inventory for investors. And the housing market is very stable. So I'm going to share a little graph with you. When COVID, March 17th, when the governor shut down the state, we had a hiccup. And mainly it was because no one knew what was going to go on. And frankly, we didn't either. From a company standpoint, I can tell you what I did March 18th. I went in and got my accounting department together, and I said, any non-essential expenses, the water machine, get rid of it. You know, let's make sure we tidy up, and we're tight on our operating expenses. This is my 3rd rodeo. I've been through 2 other recessions. I then went to my marketing department and I said, double your budget. If you can justify it, triple your budget. And when the recession happens, you double down on marketing and advertising. And what we saw was kind of interesting. I'm going to pass a graph out, and this is residential home sales, listings, new pendings going into escrow, and sold. And this kind of shows, this is actually from January 1st, if you can pass this around, through last week. Now, what's interesting, we were averaging roughly 2.5 to 3 months of inventory of residential homes on the market. You can see we're selling 391 homes in the first week, and then we had 918 homes on the market in the beginning of April. Actually, this is April through June. The housing market is roughly 45 days behind. So whatever happens today, we're not going to record revenue or see numbers until 45 days, typical escrow period. So what's interesting, if you actually look to the right of this graph, you see, actually this goes back to, this is almost a full year, a little over a full year. But you can see 120, which is obviously January, 715 homes in the market. Our market was shrinking. We sold 248 homes. We were short of inventory. But what's happened is you see a huge dip come in May. We go down to only 485 homes on the market, and we saw sales decline. And that was really a hangover from March. When March happened, we didn't know if we could show homes. People didn't know if they could do loan applications. They didn't know if they could do inspections. We had inspectors who refused to go out to the houses. We had agents refusing to go there for a final walkthrough, for appraisals. We really came to a standstill until we figured out what we can do. What's interesting is in April to May, we saw our pendings, new escrows, jumped from 259 new escrows in this market to 409, which is higher than we've seen in over a year. Wait a minute, it's COVID. We're locked down. We can't work. 42 million people unemployed. But wait, more people are buying homes. The next month, June, we went up to 476 new escrows in this valley. That we have not seen in several years. We don't know, obviously there's going to be a new generation. We have the millennials and then the Z generation. The next generation is going to be the COVID generation because we know there's going to be a lot of new births. So maybe people are planning on that already. The reality is people were shopping, our call volume went up, and interestingly, people adjusted very quickly to the new format. We started doing virtual open houses, virtual showings, where we'd actually go to the house, FaceTime, and walk through the house. So, where are we today? In the housing market, you put a house on the market that's somewhat reasonably priced. I mean, in other words, don't price it $100,000 over, but let's say it's $10,000 over maybe what you think the market was last month. That house will get, anyone want to guess how many offers that house will get today? 10 would be the low. That means it's a really ugly house. 15 offers. We've had some with 25 offers. We are back to 2004 and 5, not as a market overheating or correction issue, but from letters. I don't know, 15, 16 years ago, we used to have buyers writing letters, sending pictures. This is my wife, these are my kids, this is my dog. We want to live in your house. Please accept our offer that's $20,000 over. Can we go to dinner? We're starting to see letters again. A company offers, and this is why you want to buy the house. So what's interesting is the housing, the residential market took a quick dip, and they talk about a V recovery. This wasn't even a V. It was more like a slit in the concrete. You saw it down there, and then people decided that was 2 or 3 weeks, we were going back to business. So from the residential side, we have an issue of inventory. We do not have enough inventory. 2, builders are not building enough inventory to keep up with new births, let alone migration to the high desert. And it is a seller's market. So it's a very strong residential market. That's today. I might come back a week or 2 or a month from now, and it might be different. Obviously the state's closing down again. But interestingly, with the state closing down in some sectors, we've adapted, we've adjusted to this, what we call the new norm, and we are still carrying on the residential side. So, that's residential. Residential actually helps propel retail, commercial real estate, and professional space, office. So, one of the things that we're concerned about in the commercial sector is we still have a lot of capital in 2 parts. One, people with sold properties have 1031 exchanges that they need to put into new properties. They're also taking money out of the stock market and putting it into real estate. We have a lot of clients that are divesting and moving into real estate. The problem is we don't have the properties. We still have very low inventory on the commercial side, and this is not unique to just our region. This is a nationwide problem. So when we have clients who will say, if we can't find it in the high desert, how about searching the Phoenix metro market? Let's go to Boise, Idaho. Let's look at Salt Lake City. Those markets are as impacted as our market here. Some of the areas that we expect to see a little bit of change is retail and office. Let's start with office, which is the most probably. Who here has been on a Zoom meeting in the last month? If you're an office developer, I hate you all because Zoom is going to impact the office market. Now, asterisk next to that. Google, years ago, tried to move everyone to their homes. Now, Google, when they build a facility, they don't build it like $150 a square foot or $200 a square foot. They build a facility that costs $1,500 a square foot. Beautiful architectural design, large open space. So what happens when you're hiring, you're Google, you're hiring 20, 50, 100,000 people a year, you can't keep up with buildings, you have people work from home. Google figured out something very quickly, and it didn't take them a decade, it took them a few years. Creativity. One of the things that we're learning during the COVID times is people miss human interaction. I can tell you from we have 7 offices. We have agents saying, I'm tired of this, I want to get back to the office, I miss seeing other agents, I miss seeing the employees, I miss being active, and I'm tired of talking to my spouse. So, one of the things that Google realized is there is a human interaction that drives creativity. So, when you're developing a new service, a new page, having that, call it the workspace environment that helps creativity was missed from the home environment. But there are certain sectors, I think, that are going to learn that they can go to a Zoom type of environment. Hopefully my soon-to-be brother-in-law works for Boeing up in Seattle. He's in the engineering department, and he's currently working on a big jumbo jet that's going to be purchased by the U.S. government for a very important person. Fill in the blanks. He's working for, actually he's working on 2 of them. They bought them from the Russians, go figure. Might be a 747. Interesting, they were actually out at SCLA for a while too. He's working from home and enjoying it. For him, he lives in Everett, commutes to the Everett factory where they have just a measly 40,000 employees working. Side note, he was excited because he just hit his 25-year mark with Boeing a year ago, which meant he got a closer parking spot. So now his walk to his office is only 15 minutes. But you got to think about this. 40,000 employees. Where do you park these people? He said, my last parking, I had to take a tram. It used to take me 20 to 25 minutes from where I parked my car to get, not to mention the half hour to 45 minutes of traffic. So he had anywhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours just dedicated to commuting to get to his office. Now he wakes up, puts his jammies on, grabs a cup of coffee, logs into the computer, and starts working. He's actually asked if he can continue working at Boeing, realizing that they can consolidate. Right now Boeing needs to consolidate. They can work via Zoom. So I asked him, I said, are you seeing a lack of creativity? So he works on waste, water, and oxygen. That's his specialty. So if I need to talk to Terry, who works on seat arrangement, because I need to know where the oxygen comes down, I'd go to your cubicle. Hey, where are you putting the seats? How far is apart? Blah, blah, blah. He goes, what do you mean? I don't have to walk that. Terry's not in Everett. He's probably in India, or France, or maybe Chicago. I've been talking to Terry via Zoom for the last 3 years on the development of the oxygen system. So Boeing was actually doing Zoom from their locations. So now they're just doing it from their homes. So there's some instances where I think Zoom is actually going to shrink Zoom. I'm sorry, I don't have stock in Zoom. Could be Microsoft, could be Skype. But it's going to shrink the office space environment. If you went back 15 years ago, the average square foot per employee was 260 square feet. So if you had 10 employees, you needed a 2,600 square foot office space. 5 years ago, that shrunk down to 140 square feet per employee. I expect that to shrink even further and probably break the 100 square foot market. I'm focusing a lot on office because I think this is probably the most vulnerable sector in commercial real estate right now. If you look at our office market locally, it's been very stable over the last 20 years. Granted, 2004, 5, and 6, we had a nice increase, but when the Great Recession came, we had a slight decrease. It actually was the best performing asset class that we had, but that's also to say that the tortoise is the best running, creature out there for a marathon. It just chugs along, gets through, and gets done. We expect to see consolidation from many factors in the office sector. Mainly from a shrinkage of employees, a workforce at the office, now working at home, telemedicine, even realtors working more from home, so we expect to see a little bit of shrink. Next area is retail. Retail is going to shrink for multiple reasons. One, the bottom line is the second closure, restaurants and the bar industry, there is going to be a shrinkage. It's not what if, it's who. Unfortunately, there's just going to be mom and pop restaurants that will not make it through this process, and you'll see some consolidation in that area. Who here has purchased something via Amazon? I hate Amazon. I like Amazon because obviously it's extremely easy. I can be 11 o'clock at night, realize I need this one little part. Instead of having to figure out where I can go and get this part. I also realize when I buy that part, I'm taking money out of our community. And it's a real problem. Right now Amazon is secretly negotiating, though I think our whole industry knows, on what they call a last mile location. Last mile is typically between 100 and 150,000 square feet. It goes from a fulfillment center that's roughly 1 million to 2 million square feet. So they'll take semis, bring them into our region, they then offload them, and then they have vans, or the Uber model, come through 300, 500, 2,000 trips a day, go through this, what they call last mile distribution. Last mile distribution is going to be on probably Bear Valley Road near the highway, or Interstate 15. That's going to, again, affect local business, especially the mom and pops, the person who's selling the backpacks or the swimsuits, the small shops, and I think, again, that's going to affect the retail space. The other thing that I think that's where jeopardy is also some of the large boxes. Bed Bath & Beyond, they're hanging on barely. Personally, I think if they went out of business, I can get more space in my glove box, because my wife keeps about that inch thick of 20% off Bed Bath & Beyond. It's the most bizarre thing. She loves the place, but they're struggling. They've been closed. Their overhead is not changing. In a minute, I'm going to talk about what landlords and tenants are doing. So the big box, or the medium box. Medium box is 10,000 to roughly 40,000 square feet of space. Your Best Buy, your Burlington Coat Factory, so that's 80,000 square feet. But that mid-range, they're going to be the most affected by Amazon, because I can't go out and shop. If I go out and shop, I may die. Amazon will tell you, and by the way, I didn't come here to beat up on Amazon. There are other online, but we're very conscious as a company and also a household that before I click, I want to make sure I can't buy that within my community. Because I know when I buy it in my community, that tax dollars goes to my municipality and then reinvested back in my community. Whereas if I buy something from Texas that gets shipped out, that money's not going to be in my community. So I know it's a battle I'm not going to win, but again, that's something we've got to think, because it's going to hurt the mom and pops. It's also going to hurt the large box companies. What happens when they go out of business? We have excess of retail space. We have vacancies. Walmart on Bear Valley Road has been vacant for 7 years. Lowe's in Apple Valley has just been leased out as a vehicle storage place. Knock on wood, it makes it. But that large box, when there's a vacuum, it's very rare they get filled. Again, Best Buy goes out of business, that will be a very hard space to fill. Same with Bed Bath & Beyond and Burlington Coat Factory, because they're competing with the Amazons of the world. So we also expect the retail neighborhood, which is mom and pop, and also the large centers to also have the next, even though smaller, impact of having boxes. Single tenant locations, your Starbucks, your Jack in the Box, your McDonald's, your US Bank, we don't see any issues on those. In fact, a lot of capital is moving towards those assets, what we call a single tenant corporate asset. Cap rates are in the mid-4s to 5%. So it's better than a savings account, but it's not as good as maybe a mom and pop center. You get a higher return, but more risk. Old adage, right? Risk and return. So the other asset classes we work on is land, multifamily, and industrial. Multifamily is doing very well. I had a discussion, we had a client came in, has units at Barstow, they want $120,000 per door. 3 years ago, we looked at a property and we said we should probably buy that, but it's at $48,000 a door, and we just, I don't know if we can get our return. 3 years later, $120,000 a door. And I chuckled. This was on my way out of the office about 6:30 last night, and I go, "You're gonna take the listing? That's gonna be kind of difficult." He goes, "You know what? It pencils at a 5 cap rate. I think we'll sell it." Multifamily is doing phenomenal. Again, why? We have a housing shortage. We have a housing shortage in the high desert, California, and across the U.S. We're not building enough. I'm gonna get slightly political for a quick second. State of California says we need more houses, we need more low-income houses, but all new construction has higher impact fees, development fees, traffic fees. They have to have solar, they have to have sprinklers, they have to be greenhouses. give us another day, we'll figure out more crap for you to have to put in that house. Well, it's okay, the developer can pay for that. It raises the cost to build houses. What's that? Peter asked, how much rent do you have to charge? I can tell you our client base is looking for a minimum of $1.25 per square foot return, gross. So if it's 1,000 square feet, they're looking for $1,250 per month. Rents have gone up dramatically. Again, supply and demand. The housing shortage has shrunk, so rents are moving up. I agree. I mean, even locally, a $1,200 apartment is actually fairly cheap now. So, and it's moving up so quickly. We have a rental house out in Silver Lakes, and they just vacated. We were charging $1,625. My property manager came to me and goes, "We're going to raise it to $1,800." I said, "What was it at before? $1,500?" He goes, "No, it's been $1,625 for 2 years." I didn't realize the market's come up that quickly. Even with us in the industry, it's coming up quickly. So housing shortage, it's supply and demand. So again, not much new construction on multifamily. If you look at Los Angeles is building a lot of sky rises, right? Apartments. They're all high-end apartments, $5,000 a month, $10,000 a month. Because developers are going vertical, the land underneath is maybe $10 million for just a pad on the. Once you go forward with all the costs, your cost per square foot may be $400, $500 a square foot. So what do you need to charge in rent? Times $1.50 a square foot. So that low-income housing we're not meeting, which is why we're seeing the low apartment units at $1,200 to $1,500 going up, because we're not building new inventory. Sacramento won't get it. I don't care if you're left, you're right, conservative, moderate. It's a cluster something up there. They are not getting together. So, fast forward, California, where do you invest? Not that I'm not saying go office. I just put an office building into escrow last Friday, but it's an owner use. It serves us. I would probably not do it necessarily as investment, but multifamily is very hot, still remaining industrial. We have a shortage of industrial space in California, in the Inland Empire, and especially in our region. Vacancy rates excluding Adelanto. I'm not beating up on Adelanto, but Adelanto's still in transition. They're a little high, they're a little slow. So, right, Bill?
Yeah.
If you look to the valley, 2-3% vacancy rates between either Victorville or Apple Valley or Hesperia. Very low. 5,000 to 20,000 square feet of industrial space for that widget maker or delivery service. Very difficult to come across. Adelanto has a 14% vacancy rate, and that's not necessarily because of the market. It's because of the rates being charged in the transition. People are still trying to get permitted for cannabis. The laws are ever changing. The process is a lot slower. You have landlords that are holding buildings, hoping to get. By the way, cannabis is cooled off in Adelanto. Now it's down to about $2.25 per square foot. That same space in Apple Valley, Victorville, Hesperia, is 75 cents a square foot. Because it's in the cannabis zone, it gets a premium. Landlords are holding out, thus the vacancy rates are high.
Last month they didn't do that because Colorado just marked a record cannabis year of how much has bought, how much has gone in. They're just raking it in.
So I talked to one of our clients, good point. He said Colorado had a record. Oregon overproduced last year. Northern California actually overproduced. But Southern California, actually price per pound went up. I never, by the way, never thought in my career that I would be, the price per square foot on the acre of retail is $1.84 a square foot. Oh, and the current price on cannabis is $2,200 a pound. But we watch that for our landlords, sort of. We talk to our clients and our tenants, and because we always ask, what's the health of your business? The health of the cannabis business relates in that they can pay the rent. That's all I care about, is they can pay the rent. And so I said, okay, there's a lot of pressure from Oregon, a lot of pressure from Colorado. There's a lot of production in California. They actually had an increase in price over the last quarter, which maybe everyone's home smoking because they can't go to work. I don't know, but so the prices have come up. So industrial space is finally to the point the rents have increased to a position, excluding Adelanto, to where you can actually deliver new product, rent it out, and actually be a good investment. So moving forward, we still have low housing inventory, so multifamily is good. Industrial space is still in high demand. Single tenant assets, corporate assets, your McDonald's, your US Bank I talked about. By the way, Starbucks are golden. They're 4.5% cap rate, which means if you pay $1 million cash for a Starbucks, your return might be $40,000 or 4%. So better than a savings account, but maybe not as good as your Roth IRA or something else. But still high demand. They're still chasing those assets down. How am I doing on time? So. Never give a real estate broker or a Rotarian
Steve, how much more time does he have?
Okay. I'm going to talk about some other things. Some people may have tenants, or you may be a tenant. So I'm going to really quickly cover some of the issues we've been working on. Our firm also manages about 900 doors residential. We manage about 1 million square feet of commercial. When this first hit, we had a few landlords that called us up and said, call my tenants and give them 2 free months. Whoa, we're like, the governor just shut this down 2 minutes ago. Very, very proactive landlord. So here comes the debate. I have a contract with Terry. You're leasing space, you owe me the rent. I don't care whether you open, you close, it's not my issue, right? It's a contractual relationship. Do I want to put Terry out of business today, or do I want to hold Terry as a tenant long term? And that's a decision that we're making, and we do not have a blanket okay, attorneys, no, charge them full price. Actually, we might. We take each case independently, and this is how it would go. Terry would call and say, look, I've had to close my firm down. We cannot work because of COVID. Can I get some relief? Can I get forbearance or forgiveness? Forbearance is meaning we're going to negotiate. That rent is still due, but at a later period. Forgiveness is I'm just going to forgive the rent for a month or for 2 because I want to keep Terry as a long-term. Sorry, Terry, I'm picking on you. I want to keep him as a long-term tenant. And I can tell you a lot of our landlords are sitting down realizing that the health of Terry's organization is the health of my investment. And what am I going to do to work through that? So we will go in and we'll ask Terry, have you applied for an SBA PPP loan, the Payroll Protection Program? Have you applied for an EIDL loan? Have you applied for any type of COVID-related either financing or grants? We do this for 2 reasons. One, we don't want the burden to fall solely on the landlords. We want to make sure the tenant is actually taking all actions they can to help their employees, save their business, and make it a viable operation. And we do. We have some tenants that go, no, I'm not doing any of that stuff. I just want the landlord to give me free rent. Well, that's a little bit hard. If you're unwilling to help your whole organization, why put the whole burden on the landlord? Most of our clients, if they say no, they haven't, we ask them, do you need help? We help them through the process of applying for the PPPs or the EIDL loans because we want them to survive. Our clients who have applied for it and received it, again, you're trying to save your business, how can we get in and help save your business? Again, it's a short-term issue. We have landlords who have asked for forbearance from their banks. By the way, there is no forgiveness with banks, right? You guys forgiving money? No. If you have an SBA loan, they are probably the most flexible, but banks are working. And by the way, banks work quickly this time than they did last time. 2007, 2008, 2009, you call up and go, I lost my job, I can't make my mortgage. The bank would say, forget it. I'll tell you what, can I short sell my house? No, we're going to foreclose because we want to take $50,000 less. It was a complete cluster the last time. This time we saw lending institutions be proactive. We actually had, because we represent a lot of clients and we pay their mortgages, we had banks calling us saying, what can we do for Terry? Well, and we would get with Terry, okay, let's look at the cash flow. Is this a single asset? Do you have any other assets that cover that asset? If no, we would work out with the bank to do a 90-day forbearance. We would then be able to pass that forbearance onto the tenants, maybe rewrite the lease, extend the lease out, and help that tenant stay in business. So I know we're running tight on time. But the key is, and don't hesitate to call me. If you are a tenant and you need help with your landlord, if your landlord have tenants that are behind, by all means, reach out. Because I tell my landlords, you can be harsh today and have a vacancy tomorrow, or you can work with your tenant today and help them through. Because by the way, if I help Terry the next 90 days get through this, do you think when our lease renewal comes up, he's going to say, Jason, forget it, I found another office space. I'm hoping that he remembers how we work to keep him in business, and he extends. And there's a lot of times, you got 2 years left on your lease, we're going to extend it for 5 years. we're going to amortize that 90-day forbearance over the term, so your rent's going to go up minimal instead of having, because there's some forbearances out there. It goes, your rent's $5,000 a month, we waive 3 months, you owe us 15 grand on the 91st day. Well, if they didn't have any revenue for 90 days, how are they going to make the payment the 91st day? So again, we're structuring our leases and helping our landlords and our tenants, because at the end of this week, we're going to adapt. We'll figure this out, and we got to make sure it's a very healthy market after we get through this. So, believe it or not, I only covered about half the stuff. In a nutshell, I was going to joke and come here. Who here has commercial property? Who, and then who wants to sign it over? It's not that bad. At the end of the day, we have to realize that humans adapt very quickly. We're resilient. It is trying times. I'm not going to undermine the severity of what's going on, but we are learning new norms. I'm wearing a mask at my office. I'm having my staff wear a mask, and I'm telling you, this isn't a political issue. This isn't a right or left. It's not a religious issue. We're just taking precautions. And I can tell you, my wife and I are setting the example wherever we are. We're wearing our masks. We put in stations. We're being very careful at our offices, and we'll adapt. So our new showings are different. The way we're meeting clients are doing Zoom. And guess what? A couple of my guesses is next year we're going to look back and go, well, that was fun. Don't want to do that again. And then we'll be worrying about the earthquake. I mean, we had bees, we had an earthquake before. What else do we have? Malaria is coming back. Ebola, good old favorite. I heard that's coming back again. SARS is coming back again. And now we have a 2.38% chance of having a 7.5, 7.5 earthquake. So, look, don't focus on COVID. We got other stuff to worry about.
Casey, can I ask a question?
Yes.
You're done.
Yeah.
So did I hear that if there's private capital out there, there's going to be builders wanting to build homes up here before the big builders come, since there's a shortage? Did I hear that in all that you said?
Yes.
That if people have private capital and want to team up with a builder, there might be some money to be made?
There are builders out there looking for private capital. And when I mentioned in the beginning of this, when we got 3 weeks into this and I realized this is our recession, I relaxed. Now that sounds funny because I've been waiting for the other shoe to drop for 15 years, maybe a little less. We had the Great Recession, it's got to happen again. It happened in the 90s. It happened in the 70s. So we're going to have a huge correction on prices. Home prices are going to plummet like they did before. Commercial real estate is going to be, vacancy rates are going to go up. And when I realized that the fundamentals of our market are strong, meaning it's a tight housing market, we didn't overbuild. We didn't get a chance to overbuild. Commercial, hardly any new spec was delivered, speculation building was delivered during this cycle. When you look at across the nation, this is not a real estate crisis or a recession. 3 out of 5 recessions are not real estate related. The problem is the Great Recession was so bad that that's all we remember. That was the party of all parties. The hangover is still in the back of my head, and we were expecting that. And not that we were expecting the Great Recession, but we expected there would be a correction on prices, a slowdown on real estate, and we've been preparing for it. I have clients who've been stockpiling cash, expecting they can get deals when the next recession hits. We're in a recession. It's not official yet because you have to have 2 consecutive quarters of negative growth, but the reality is there, with 42 million, when I was down 36 million unemployed, we're still going to be in a recession. There's no doubt about that, but it's not a real estate related recession. So we still need new homes. There are several builders that would gladly partner up with you to deliver new units because capital is a huge commodity for them and they can't find it. So anyway, yes.
Any question? Residential vacant land.
Yes, I did not cover land.
But is that just still the same, or somebody wants to build and somebody wants to buy it?
So, speculation land, meaning, I'm going to do 3 types of land. Speculation land, meaning between here and Silver Lakes on the 395, that's in the middle of nowhere, it didn't come back. A little thing called the internet came around, and actually instead of telling someone, hey, this land's going to be hot, the train's coming through soon, I don't have to tell you it's 15 miles away. That was the 90s, that was the early 2000s. People bought speculative land because all you had to do is buy land, it goes up in value, sell it to the next guy, and then when the music stops, I got out. I sold it, right? That was the philosophy. We never saw that come back, and I really attribute that to the internet and people who are more educated by being able to put a parcel number in and see where that property is. The only land that's been moving has been really two types of land. Infill, commercial development infill. So Interstate 15 and Main Street are ranchero. In other words, developing locations. So next to a Target, next to a Starbucks, something that is a regional power center that's pulling everything together. Going out Bear Valley and Central Road or Joshua and building new commercial out there, it's not going to happen. It's all what we call infill, close. And the third is residential. Residential, if I get 20 acres and I'm going to break it down into 40 lots, didn't happen this cycle, it's not going to happen this cycle because we have too much standing inventory. Ready to build turnkey, what we call scattered single lots. So Apple Valley, Hesperia, very famous for their scattered lots. So if you're a builder, I can go grab this lot for $37,000 or $42,000, and I got utilities in the street. It's ready to go. I don't have to do any subdivision map act. I don't have to do CEQA. I don't have to do anything. It's turnkey, plug and play. So if I can keep buying 1 to 2 lots each month, I get someone like Mike who's just going to give me a checkbook and let me build that house so I can build it on spec. That's what they're doing. KB, some of the other companies have lots tied up in agreements. Bottom line, they paid $90,000 to have lots developed in 2006. Market crashes, the lots are now worth $15,000. I then sell them. He takes them and agree to price, so you buy them at $20,000, and each year you get a guaranteed 12% return until I need that lot back. So if you have 20 acres and you go, we're going to subdivide it, the costs exceed standing inventory. It will cost you $80,000 to $100,000 to deliver that lot, and I can replace that lot in Apple Valley, Hesperia, or Victorville anywhere between $30,000 to $50,000 for a nice lot. So hopefully that answers it. My wife says I talk too much.
Most men do.
So anyway, if you have any questions, just give me a call.